There it is.
We're live.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Luke is here. Right there.
Hey? Luke is right there.
Hey. Point in the right direction. Hi.
Right over there. It's the story. I'm going to have to come up with a song with good lyrics.
Yeah, really.
Okay. Hello, everyone that has joined us for part 2. On the episode 431, we stopped about, a couple of hours ago. And now Rick has joined us. We're going to let him tell us about what he's been up to. But hang on, let me start the recording first. That will be helpful for me. Editing.
Good idea.
Yeah. Let's see if it's actually recording. It seems to be. Say something, Steph.
Something?
Okay.
I'm still here.
Perfect.
Good.
You're still here. Good. Okay. Looks like we're recording. So, the magic of podcasting. Look who's joined us. Oh, wait. I should probably play this. Yes. From his mobile recording studio in the place from which he got his name. I'm trying to find my script. It's not working out well. Okay. Hang on. And I was doing so well there until I realized I didn't have my script. Okay, here we go.
Try again.
Yeah. What? Look who's here. Wow. From his mobile studio in the place that spawned his name in Miami, Florida. World traveler, airplane mechanic, Breitling cognoscenti, fitness hound, and international air freight captain. It's Miami Rick.
Hey, everybody. Happy to be back, and I'm in Miami. How about that?
Yeah, it's you've spent a lot of time in your life down there in Miami, haven't you?
Quite a bit, and I can't seem to get away from this place. Every time I have to go back to school, I come here. Every time I have to, there's a big cargo hub here for every airline I've ever flown for, passengers as well. So this is kind of like second home, I guess I would say.
Home away from
now
home.
It's second home. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of nice though. It's like putting on a well-worn glove, right?
Either that or walking around a sauna, but either way.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, but Arizona is not cool this time of year.
The dry heat.
Yeah, but at least it's not. Yeah, at least it's not humid.
Yeah, that's true.
Arizona feels like Kuwait.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
You're not missing out on anything, bro.
Okay. So we recorded the first part of the show, about 2/3 of it, actually a little bit more than 2/3 of it earlier. You were going to join us for that, but your schedule got adjusted.
Yes, it did. So so yesterday, actually, I'll fill you guys in. I did a 2-day trip or 3-day. Well, actually, I forget. It just kind of everything kind of runs together. But for the first time in a long time, I actually got to fly with the same guy for 4 flight sectors. One of which was this my colleague's annual line check. So I got to sit in the right seat of the 767 for the first time in years and years and years and years. So I did that. We went from Wilmington down to Houston, from Houston down here to Miami, and then we went from Miami to back to Houston, and then from Houston up to Wilmington up in Ohio. That was yesterday. And then today I was supposed to deadhead on a company aircraft down here. But at the last minute, my schedule was adjusted. So instead of just riding on company metal down here, they said, "Hey, how would you like to actually do a little bit of driving?" I was like, "Do I have a choice?" Like, no.
It's your lucky day.
So
you get to fly.
So I did the sector down here out of Cincinnati, and just got here a little while ago. Got out of the airplane and ran over to the hotel, take a shower, change and went over next door, get something to eat, came running back, and here I am.
Man, we appreciate that effort. And I know our audience does. It's always good to see you.
No, I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. So we talked about just a couple of news items, not a lot, but as I mentioned before we started recording with you, we'll be definitely talking about the Pakistan International Airways crash. They just came out with a preliminary report, and we're gonna let Rick get a good read of that. It's a short read, and you'll be amazed at all the strange things that happened on that one. And then we'll talk about it again, probably on the next show. And then we'll probably continue to talk about it until they finally come out with the final report.
Sounds good. I did read the something about the state of the licenses of a lot of those pilots over there.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's quite the interesting read, and I had me scratching my head there for a little while, going, "How in the heck?" But
Yep.
yeah, I'll get caught up on that, and it's going to be good discussion. Absolutely.
All right. So anything else to tell us about getting to know us kind of segment stuff, or are we all caught up with you?
I think we're caught up. I'm on the road. Well, I sit here in Miami on reserve, short reserve actually, which is nice for a change, because when I do it up in Cincinnati, I have to go from one hotel to the other, because your layover hotel is downtown Cincinnati, and the short call hotel is right next to the airport, and you have to go from one place to another, which is kind of counterproductive. But here, you just sit at the hotel the whole time. I'm literally right next to the airport, so if if I get the call, which I hope I don't, I can be in the jet and with the brakes released within an hour and a half, which is kind of the plan. So I'll do that till the 5th. Barring they don't use me, I'll be here the whole time.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
No better place than Florence, Kentucky, right?
No, Miami, Florida, right now.
Oh, but I know. But I thought you said you're sitting reserve down there.
Yeah, down here in Miami. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
I was doing some other things in the background and not.
I know. I was
listening
like,
closely
what's in Florence?
in my mind, when you're talking about the close hotel, I'm thinking, oh, he's in Cincinnati, and never mind. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. What is the? Where is it? Here we go.
Shut up, Jeff.
All right.
Now we'll blame it on the hour. It's late.
Yeah. It's way past my bedtime. Not really. I usually stay up until after midnight. Not that I'm thinking very clearly at that time, but I do stay up that late. Okay, let's head over to some feedback that perhaps is applicable to you, Rick.
Okay.
Number 19, Ham Radio Jim. He specifically says, for Miami Rick. That's why we didn't touch it.
Oh, wow. I know that guy.
Yeah. When you were describing the exacting schedules of the freight carriers you now fly versus the seemingly random schedules that military logistics folks have, I couldn't help think of the phrase we used to say to describe these military carriers when I was flying on them as a passenger. The current Major Com, the MAJCOM, with the Major Command, I guess that stands for MAJCOM. With the cargo flights, AMC is Airspace Mobility Command. But when I was on active duty, we had the Military Airlift Command. That's what I did. Or MAC. Perhaps Captain Jeff remembers this one. Yes, I do. They would make us arrive at the MAC passenger terminal 2 or 3 hours ahead of our scheduled departure time, only to find the plane we were supposed to fly on was 4 hours late. That led some of us to change the name from Military Airlift Command to Maybe Airplane Come. That's true. But the planes always did arrive, I must admit. Nice to have you back as a regular, Rick. I look forward to much good cricket time in the future. And I'm trying to quickly find the crickets. And of course, I can't. There we go.
There we go.
There are the crickets. All right. That's Ham Radio Jim. And so what do you think about all that? Do you?
Well, it's true. I haven't done any AMC flying as of yet on the 7.6, but I did quite a bit of it on the 7.4, both passengers and cargo. And AMC flying tends to be a little hit and miss as far as the schedule is concerned. But it's really because of reasons that have nothing to do with us. Because the military, what they do is they'll book the airplane for a certain block of hours and use that block of hours to adjust their schedules accordingly. So sometimes obviously on these military flights where we carry passengers, we'll also carry some cargo, albeit it's non-hazardous cargo, but stuff that still needs to get from point A to point B. So sometimes the delays because of that. I've never had any delays on military flights where I just carry not ordnance, but just cargo based on overflight permits or anything like that. But there's things that need to be taken into consideration when you're flying an airplane full of ordnance, because you can't fly over certain airspaces. Certain countries won't let you fly, overfly their territory. And then, but it's true, you can't really set your watch by AMC flights, but at the end of the day, I mean, you will get there because that's basically the contract. And, that's kind of how that goes.
Yeah. Not like a Swiss train, but,
no, it's not. But how was it? How was it in the military? Actually, was it kind of the same or?
Yeah, it was the same. But we got there.
Yeah.
As I like to say, with Acme, if we were running late because of a whatever delay, usually mechanical or something like that, I say, welcome aboard Acme flight 431, same day service to Miami. That usually gets a chuckle out of people if they're not too upset. So,
right.
But
no, I used to well, and it's just like you say, it's kind of, sometimes you get there on time, sometimes you don't, but you just try to do the best you can, really. But it's really interesting flying. I remember when you do just freight flying and you carry ordnance, so they basically park you. It's called a hot pad. So it's a place far away from the terminal, far away from infrastructure. And that kind of makes you feel nice. It's like, kind of,
why are they keeping us away from everything?
Why are we over here?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. So yeah, some of the most interesting flying I've done so far has been AMC flying. The places you go to, man, I tell you, you see some very interesting things.
Yeah, you probably see some things. I remember seeing some things that I wish I hadn't.
Yep, me too.
I'd really rather not know about this.
Mm-hmm. That's
another saying I like to say when we're running late is it's better to arrive late in this life than early in the next.
That's true. Another interesting thing is I remember coming into, so it's very different, the demeanor obviously of our brave young men and women going to overseas versus the demeanor of those coming back. And coming back, you can feel an air of like a celebratory air in the jet, and everybody's happy, everybody's relieved. Yeah. And as you come into Baltimore, because we do a lot of those flights from Ramstein Air Force Base into Baltimore, all passenger 747s. Approach control, they're always very happy to have us back, and they always are very welcoming of the troops, and they make that known to us. Just tell us to pass that on to the guys in the back, and it's always nice. It makes us it gets us excited as well. And as you walk out of the terminal, out of the international arrivals, you see all kinds of welcoming parties, and there's groups of volunteers that greet the troops, and it's always nice to kind of just take that all in a little bit and just admire that, because so some of these guys and gals have been gone for months at a time, and you can really see it in their faces that they're happy. So
and probably a lot of the people that they know aren't
absolutely.
Coming back, or not coming back in one piece.
Exactly.
All right, well, good question. Thank you, Ham Radio Jim. Let's move to Ramiro, number 20. Greetings, APG crew. Welcome back, Miami Rick. The man, the myth, the legend. The man, the myth, the legend.
Oh, wow.
When I started listening to APG almost 3 years ago, Rick was not on the show, and it was really great. No, he didn't say that. But was
Jeff's commentary.
But was often talked about, and most of the time the crew had good things. Most of the time, the crew had good things to say about him. Hey, Ramiro, shut up.
Yeah, don't throw us under the bus here, Ramiro. All right.
All the time, of course. He says, I'm kidding, of course. As a matter of fact, if Rick had not come back to the show, Jeff would have had to rename the podcast, because after the retirement of the coal burner, Rick is the only active flying airline pilot. Yeah, technically speaking,
That's kind of true.
It's really true.
That's true.
100% true.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it's above 50. We're there.
Let's not dwell on that, shall we? I do have a question, so I'll get to it. I don't see. Get to it, Ramiro. I don't see a lot of Airbus A330-200F freighters, at least not in the U.S. The big three cargo carriers don't have any in their fleet, and a quick search on the internet didn't turn up too many A332Fs. Why do you think it hasn't been more popular with the cargo outfits?
Really?
It seems to me that, hang on, let me finish.
I was like, Rick, we have to say this one for Rick, because I know he's got some opinions on this.
He says, it seems to me that it has roughly the same capacity as the 767-300, and being a newer aircraft should have better fuel economy, yet UPS, FedEx, and Atlas have ignored this jet. Is it because Airbus pilots are too sophisticated to spend their time flying rubber dog poo out of Hong Kong? I put that in for Nick. That's what he says. That was not me. That was Ramiro again. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the A332F. Love the podcast. Take care, all. Ramiro. Okay, now go.
Well, it's an Airbus. So what do you want?
What else is there to say?
Next question. I'm just kidding. Well, to be fair, the 330 it's a very good jet. The thing with the 330-200F particularly is that it's an adaptation, obviously, of the 330 passenger jet. And I don't know if you've ever looked at a 330 freighter closely. There's this fairing underneath the nose landing gear that regular A330s don't have. But the reason behind that is that normal A330s actually sit slightly nose down when they're parked. And that makes it a little hard for the loading and unloading, because if you're loading, obviously those pallets have to go uphill. And so for the airplane to be level, the only way really to make that happen is by, jerry rigging a couple of spacers on the nose landing gear there and put a fairing on it and make it look pretty. And so that way the airplane is now level. The capacity, as far as capacity, the 330-200 does have larger capacity than a 76, both volume and weight wise. But really, where the 7.6 has the upper hand is really twofold. First of all, the number of 767 frames available out there for conversion is so high that it's a lot cheaper for airlines to just go out and get a 7.6 and convert it, or buy a secondhand converted 7.6. Now, airlines like UPS and FedEx, they're still ordering. Well, yeah, actually, both of them, UPS and FedEx, they're still ordering 767-300 freighters, and they're still coming off the assembly lineup in Seattle, brand new. But the bulk of the 7.6 freighter market are jets that have been converted to freighters after being passenger jets. I do see some. I used to see them quite a bit in Hong Kong. Hong Kong Airlines has quite a few 330 freighters. Quite a bit of Qatar cargo ones as well. Although I didn't see that many. I would see I'd see one of those every once in a while in Amsterdam. And Turkish Airlines also has 330 freighters. But the one airline that I've seen that has the most of them, at least personally, is actually here in Miami. It's a Colombian airline, flag carrier from Colombia called Aviation. And they operate quite the fleet of them. So I mean, they're still around. Just like everything Airbus does, they're not making it anymore. So that I guess tells you something about what airlines. And you have to think also the fact that all jokes aside here, it's about flexibility, it's about scalability, and it's about operating cost. So if you have a lot of something and it's easy to convert and parts are readily available, then obviously that's going to be your choice, because at the end of the day, it's all about dollars and cents. So not that it's a bad airplane, but it's just not a lot of those jets around. So it's a little bit harder to maintain, operate, and all that. So, and even more so now when everything, like airlines are basically operating on not on a shoestring, but the idea is to keep those operating revenue margins as large as possible.
Mm-hmm. On the video podcast I have on the screen, I'm sharing my screen right now with a Qatar A330-200F. And I always wondered about, I saw pictures of the freighters. It never dawned on me why there was that special little bump underneath or right in the nose wheel area. But now it makes sense. And I can see now it's a nice level kind of attitude and not that nose down attitude that you see in the passenger.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had apparently just not paid enough attention to realize that it actually did sit a little nose down. I was like, really?
Oh, yeah. I've noticed that. Yeah, it just it does have.
But I just never registered. So.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, I wonder if that is actually by design, it's quite interesting because usually airplanes cruise at about a 2.5 degree nose up attitude.
Mm-hmm.
So if that happens to be the attitude, I don't know what the attitude is on 330s, normal 330s, but if it's actually around that neighborhood, when you're cruising around, the airplane would be nice and level, which would make it easy for cabin crew to to go up and down the aisle doing their service. Because I remember when I used to fly passengers, one of the really complaints from cabin crew was having to go towards the back of the towards the front of the airplane, uphill. And if you really wanted to be mean to them, which I don't understand why you would be, you'd climb a little early, and the airplane would be at about 3 to 3.5 degrees, and it'd be really hard on them. So.
Well, I would say to
doing
them,
that. I can't get the drinks.
I would say to them,
airplane.
They're a bunch of whiners because the L1011 at cruise is like 6 degrees.
Real 6 degrees.
Yeah, or 5 degrees.
Holy
It was
crap.
it was considerably higher than a regular.
Wow.
Typically, as Rick just mentioned, 2.5 degrees is typical. But this thing, and you don't really notice it when you're in the cockpit flying, and then you get up out of your seat to go to the restroom, and you go, whoa, start falling down.
Just roll down the aisles.
And the flight attendants really hated, doing the cabin service with the carts with the.
I mean, they should have just had a way that you could start at the front of the cabin, just work to the back, and then reset on the reset
Yeah.
So it's all you can just ride it down,
or call us up and say, hey, could you
your shopping cart.
But here's the thing about the 1011. So the galley actual kitchens were downstairs. So there were elevators from the lower part of the jet, below the passenger level, and then you'd go up, and then so that way I guess you had more room for paying for revenue passengers. So, but I tell you, if I came back to the cockpit and I looked down at my attitude indicator and I saw a 5.5 degree pitch, it'd be like, what the heck?
Yeah, you're
like, what did you do?
Standing on the back of your neck, like, what are you doing? We're about to stall.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it was interesting. Okay.
I never knew that. Wow, look at that.
Yeah. So great, good info there on the 332F. Thank you, Rick. Our expert freight dog guy. Let's see. I think Liz wanted me to go next to maybe number 10. So that's number 10 in the feedback folder. This is from Michael Andrew. Oh, yeah. He didn't send this to our feedback address. He sent it directly to a few of us, and so I put this in the regular feedback folder for everyone to see. And the thing I was having a discussion with, was this the one, Liz, that I was really impressed with the way he wrote, maybe not. I don't know. I might be getting confused.
I think that was a different one.
It was a different one. It was okay. It was a different piece of feedback. Okay. Well, we're going to read this one anyway. Hi, Captain Jeff and crew. Relatively long time year listener here, though this is my first feedback. Cue jeering. I was heading home from the airport at which I'm flying these days, Smith Reynolds, KINT. I think
very familiar.
Knows about in Winston-Salem. And happened to look at the arrivals board on FlightAware as I was leaving. I saw that there was an inbound 737-800 from San Diego, flight SWQ-9820, due to arrive within the hour. Recognizing the Swift Air identifier, I assumed it must have been a ferry flight for maintenance, since most of the charter traffic on that type of equipment that we get around here is for sports teams, and, well, there aren't a whole lot of sports happening these days. North State Aviation has a pretty substantial maintenance outfit at INT, so that theory made sense. At any given point, we've got at least 4 or 5 United 737s, 757s on the north ramp having work done. What caught my attention, you agree?
I agree.
At any given point, we've got at least 4. No, I just read that. Let me move down. What caught my attention with this flight, though, was that the filed time en route was over 7 hours, which seemed pretty long for a flight crossing the country west to east. Then I noticed the filed cruise altitude of just 9,000 feet. California to North Carolina at 9,000 feet in the 737. Out of sheer curiosity, I looked up the tail number, November 820TJ, and was greeted with a few links to a very recent incident report. As it turns out, this was the aircraft that somehow lost parts of the vertical stab in Victorville a few weeks ago. I guess after it landed in San Diego, it stayed there until they could get a permit to ferry it across the country and had it airworthy enough to do so. It looks like the actual repairs will be happening here in Winston, though I know Swift Air, or iAero, has a base next door in Greensboro. I guess not taking it up to normal cruising altitude speed and putting undue strain on the airframe in the process makes a lot of sense, but I was wondering if any of you guys, especially Captain Rick with a maintenance background, had any familiarity with ferry flight operations like this one, basically extended ops at low altitude. I know pretty little about acceptable deferred defects, ADD, and the like, but I'd assume this situation has something to do with that. It'd also be very interesting to hear if Captain Nick had differing experiences with or knowledge regarding these types of ops in the UK, though I'd imagine the FAA and CAA probably have a similar regulatory approach to these sorts of things. I snapped a few photos and have attached them here in case you are all interested. It appears they installed a temporary piece where that fin that extends 15-ish feet up the fuselage from the tail on 737s. I forget what the part's called, but I remember the other Captain Jeff mentioning it on a recent episode, and I believe that piece made up the biggest chunk of the stuff that came off of the original flight. There were definitely still parts panels missing along the bottom of the stab as well. I know the photos and video aren't the best, but hopefully you could make some out of that. Thanks for all that each of you does for the APG and aviation communities at large. This podcast and community continues to be a huge inspiration for young pilots like myself, especially in challenging seasons like these. And of course, shout out to Dr. Steph and all other medical professionals for all you do for your patients and for holding steady on the front lines of the COVID battle. Oh, and one final thing. Do I need to report APG syndrome on medicals? Tailwinds and good health, Michael Andrew. You know what? I'm not a doctor, Michael, but I would definitely not even mention anything about the APG syndrome.
No. That's just
Oklahoma City has put out an all points bulletin on that one, and they say nope. Anybody mentions that, they're
immediate.
Yeah.
Just revoke your medical.
I like his title, Hyper Cherokee Gear Tolerance Tester. That's perfect.
Is that on 3060 Bravo or what's the other
Gear Tolerance Tester?
Yeah, there's a couple of Cherokees, a couple of Archers there. He sent me a separate DM on Twitter too, and I just have not been back up to Winston, but it sounds like there's a separate thing there where he's probably not staying there too much longer, but I will let you know if I get back up there sometime soon, Michael.
Nice.
Excellent.
Yeah, I was it's interesting. I mean, if you don't obviously, if you stay low to the, below 10,000 feet, it's obviously a pressurization issue. Obviously, you're not pressurizing the vessel, and so. But I don't know, I don't know why you would what the parts missing from that airplane have to do with not being able to pressurize. I didn't really, I'm not familiar exactly what happened besides the airplane missing some parts. Mm-hmm. I find it interesting how the routing is actually just on the U.S.-Mexico border there on the south, Arizona, New Mexico. So you kind of get around having to fly over the Rockies that way, because when you fly over,
you'd have to be over 10,000 for sure.
Well, yeah, not only that, but you have to be above a minimum minimum obstacle clearance altitude, and then other considerations come to mind as far as radio communication coverage, nav aid coverage, and so all these, and basically the MEA minimum en route altitude kind of takes care of all that stuff. So it's interesting how they flew to the south to kind of get around that there.
Looking at that chart that he included, the last image just above the movie, which doesn't show up as a movie here. The way I read this, he's above 10, or they are above 10. They're probably just above 10,000 feet, or right at 10,000 feet all the way over, and that would allow them. And it's shown here in the speed.
Here we
the
go.
Speed is above 250 knots for at least the first part of the flight. So
yep. I see what.
And I think
two data lines there. Yep.
There was something I read that said that they thought one of the theories regarding the reason why that big giant piece popped off was they have had some issues with some skin and pressurization issues and small holes forming right in that area. And I'm thinking maybe that, there was some kind of a pressure blowout and kind of popped that piece off the airplane. And so maybe they're concerned they did some kind of a patch there, but it's not good to go for like regular pressurization. So they probably were unpressurized.
Yeah. I mean, they must have been unpressurized. And so on an airplane, really, the one thing that you cannot overhaul is the fuselage, the pressure vessel. You can't, because so every time you take off and you go through a pressurization cycle, that is in itself called a cycle. So that's really why you see a lot of these, not newer types, but you'll see newer type airplanes that fly short haul being put out to pasture relatively soon, because that fuselage reaches that maximum of cycles, and it's not usable anymore. And so, obviously by looking at this altitude versus speed plot here, it's clear that they in fact were not pressurized. And there's other systems on board that once you get past 9,500 feet, and this is on basically all Boeings. That's the beauty of it. They'll kind of work the same. There's going to be a warning, actually. And on 737s, which I've never flown, but it's the same warning horn for just about everything, and that's what caused that crash, the Helios crash in Greece, when they forgot to set the pressurization system. So you'll get that 9,500, and then the higher up you go at, I believe it's 11,000 feet of cabin altitude, there's a solenoid that's going to automatically close the outflow valve, and this outflow valve is basically it's a valve. It's kind of like an opening in the back of the
pressure
fuselage.
Release.
Exactly. Basically, what happens is that you're tapping air off the engines and you're blowing up the fuselage like a balloon, and that outflow valve is what regulates that pressure. And the idea is to get to 8.6 psi differential pressure, or delta P, and you fly at that. There you go.
We'll let it lay on that one. Sorry.
Exactly. And so that's what if you get to that altitude and the airplane's not pressurized, or because there's a hole somewhere else or something's going on, then the system is designed to close that outflow valve completely to try to maintain that positive pressure in there. And then obviously at 14,500 feet, the switches, the solenoids that hold the doors for the oxygen masks in the back, that's going to let go, and then the masks are going to release automatically. The famous rubber jungle.
Yes, the jungle.
But obviously, by not climbing past any of those altitudes, there you're getting around that system,
those issues,
and not having to deal with them. So clearly, this airplane was not pressurized. And as Captain Jeff mentioned here, the fact that the speed line here goes above 250 knots, which in the States, it's mandatory, 250 knots below 10,000 feet. The fact that it's above that obviously tells me here that they did fly above 10,000 feet, but no higher than 11. So that makes sense. I think as far as the permits, you do need to contact your FSDO there, and you need to have a ferry permit. Obviously, you need to file and get all the permits required, and then your fuel considerations have to be you have to take that into account as well, because you are going to need a lot more fuel to go cross country at 11,000 feet.
10,000 feet. Something.
You know, versus a lot higher. And the reason behind that is because any engine, any combustion engine, really, the way it works is it's a basic ratio. It's called the stoichiometric ratio, right? So it's 14.6 units of air to 1 unit of fuel. And obviously, the higher you go, the lower the density is, and so that is linear to the amount of fuel required to maintain that 14.6 to 1 ratio. So the lower you are, the heavier the air is, and so the more fuel you need to put in, so that the mixture is right. And that's what airplanes, that's what fuel control units, hydromechanical fuel control units do back in the day. With it's a little complicated, but that's what they do. FCUs, that's what they do. And then nowadays, the FADEX and EECs, the electronic engine controls, that's what they do. So they just basically maintain a 14.6 to 1. And so if you're going to fly cross country at 11,000 feet, you need a lot more fuel because you're flying a lot lower, where air is a lot heavier and a lot denser, and you need to maintain a 14.6 to 1. So that's another thing to keep in mind there.
Beautiful. Hey, I just noticed, just to kind of get a little off the track here in the chat room, Tim Wiltonen is there, and he's talking about just driving 7 hours to St. Louis, listen to 2 episodes, sitting here with an IPA and my APG shirt, and I get a notice of the show live. A guy can only take so much.
Very nice.
That's very syndrome, Tim.
In the first part of the show, I talked about going through Slack, and there's a Tim W in Slack. And I'm wondering are you the Tim W on Slack? Because if you are, we talked about you. You'll have to listen to the first part of the show.
Ooh.
But about getting your instrument rating, or at least the written exam. So if that's you, congratulations. And,
I tell you, you get that one, it's all downhill from there. That's the for me at least, that was the hardest one.
Yeah.
I concur.
That was it.
Excellent. All right. Yeah, one of these days I'm going to get mine.
Yeah,
it'd be
it's
a
helpful.
good idea.
Not necessary, but helpful.
I've always wondered how those guys can fly without seeing stuff outside. I don't know how they do it.
You just close your eyes and hope for the best.
I just always say, "Hey, you have the airplane." That works out well for me. Nobody's caught on yet. It was him. Tim has gotten back with us with a little bit of delay here. So congratulations, man.
Nice.
So it's a triple whammy for you here tonight. So with that, I know it wasn't long for having Rick on the show with us on part 2, but we don't want to make this thing too long in endurance. Oh, I could still do that, couldn't I?
That's what she said.
Yeah, it just never stops. Sorry, and that means
that's also what she said.
I know. So,
someone help us.
Okay, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Right,
thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
So this is the time where we say thank you all for listening to the show, downloading it, watching it on YouTube, subscribing to us on YouTube. That's always helpful. And leaving reviews and all that kind of stuff, telling your friends. If you want to learn more about the show, if you're new to this, or if you've been listening for quite some time and have never gone and looked at our website, you should do that. It's airlinepilotguy.com. And we're also on the social medias.
We are. You can head over to twitter.com, and we are at APG Crew. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. And I've been a Slack. Well, we'll get to Slack in a second, but I've been a Slacker on Twitter. But we do have a presence there at APG Crew.
We do, and let's see if
Jeff, this is my private time.
hello. Come on now, you got to do Slack.
Let me finish up poo for once.
Oh, I'm sorry if you had to hear that. Okay, that's good.
At least be flushed.
That's
Good
a
time.
good. Don't forget to wash your hands. Okay, sounds like he's washing his hands. Let's make sure he gets the full 20 seconds in.
Supposed to sing happy birthday.
I don't think that was 20 seconds, Hillel.
What the heck is on this hand towel, Jeff?
We'll talk later, Hillel. Come on over here and tell us about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and plain tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Thanks, hello.
Sorry, Jeff, I might have used all your skin lotion.
It's okay. All right.
Just making himself at home.
Well, that's what he does.
I know.
And let's see, a big round of applause for our producer,
Liz.
director in the control room in Toronto. She does a fantastic job, makes us look good by doing all this work in the background. Thank you very much. We love you. And we all love all of you listening and watching. And until next time, we look forward to seeing you again on the next episode of the Airline Pilot Guy Show. Until then, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
And we'll see you next time. Be safe.
Yeah. We did it.
Nice.
Made it.
We made
Liz
it.
is super happy. She's like, you guys didn't go on for like 3 hours again.
Yeah. It would be very easy to do. All I had
I
to
know.
do
I was
is
like, what? That's it? Oh,
All I
okay.
had
That
to
was
do is
it.
like pick another
That was
piece of
45
feedback.
minutes. It didn't feel like it at all.
I know.
No.
I feel like
It
I,
goes
went,
like
I just sat down here.
It's amazing how quickly it goes. It really does.
Wow.
It is. Okay.
That's what she said.
You had to.
That's
sorry.
true. That was just so wrong.
I know.
It creeps me out every time. Oh, that's
Oh,
true.
the
Oh, that's true.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that one.
We have fun here. We have fun. And thanks everybody and I think a lot of the people that joined us here on round 2 or part 2 weren't with us earlier.
Yeah,
And
different crowd. Thanks, guys. Sorry, it was
Yeah.
the shorter of the 2 segments, but
a lot of
just something to look forward to on the
a lot of West Coasters, which makes sense. They're 3 hours.
and our
behind us.
third shift folks.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, we'd probably do more shows later in the day, but it's always kind of a pain for Nick because it's so late. And he's 5 hours
And-
ahead of us.
And Owen, and I have no idea what the heck time it is where you are,
Oh,
Owen.
who knows? I don't think he knows what time it is.
It's probably like morning, right? Like it has
I
to
think.
be plus
It's got to
7
be
from
like
here,
7 or
plus
8 hours.
7 or 8, yeah.
Yeah, so probably still very early morning. Yeah. Owen, I don't know if you saw my return email, but I actually did get your email. I was saying earlier, we were saying something offensive, and I said to send your email to
Oh yeah.
I'm offended at airlinepilotguy.com. And it was during the plane tail, and Owen sent me a
works.
WhatsApp. He goes, "Hey, I just did a test email to I'm offended at airlinepilotguy.com," and he said it didn't bounce back, so I think it worked. And I was getting my pizza, during our break, and I saw his email. I went, "Yep, it did work." So the sun may or may not be up. He doesn't even have Windows wherever he's living.
It's currently 5:44 in the morning there.
Where is he?
Dubai, I believe.
Dubai, that's right.
Oh, Dubai. Okay.
But I think he's in some kind of a jail cell, solitary.
Okay.
But they
Nice.
give him
So he may not
Wi-Fi.
have a window.
So it doesn't matter, what time of day it is.
No, it doesn't.
Dubai
just-
in the summer. Good for you, man.
He's just
Man.
happy.
What did you
to
say
be
it was?
alive.
54 degrees Celsius the other day?
Yeah,
He was telling us.
that's hot.
Oh man, I remember.
130.
That's hotter than Phoenix.
Yeah.
Oh, it is, and when you park out in the so the times I've been in Dubai, well, I've flown to Dubai International Airport with the freighter, but most of the time we'll fly to an airport south of Dubai International called Al Maktoum. It's DWC Dubai World Cargo. And like everything they do over there, it's big and grandiose and completely overdone, but it's nice.
Mhm.
And so, but the one thing they don't do is, and I really no reason for them to do it anyway, is jet bridges, sky bridges to the airplane. So you deplane by air stairs. And I tell you, they open that door and you
Oven.
get slapped in the face. Like it really does feel like when you go and
Yeah,
check
you open the oven, you put
see
your
the-
head into it. That's what it feels like.
Yep, welcome to Dubai.
Oh
You know,
man!
so it's quite. But I tell you, a
What
lot
was that
of
Oh my
burning
God.
smell?
He
Oh,
says right
that's
now
good.
it's 90 and feels like 108. It's 5:45 in the morning.
Oh yeah, Absolutely. But it's
Owen.
it's a fantastic place. That's one of my favorite layovers. Actually, I'm looking forward to going back to that side of the world here. Hopefully next month. I'll be doing a little bit of Asia flying for a change here
nice.
in a couple weeks. So it's gonna be
Great.
nice to go down
Well,
there. And,
if you get to
see what I
Dubai, make sure you look up Owen because he's lonely. He needs people to, to hang out with.
hang out.
Mhm.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely.
He says he got into Al Maktoum with an APU in op.
Oh,
Ouch.
And on the 7.4, you can't open the windows, but we do have a hatch on top of that. Really done. I tell you, just being able to open the windows on the 7.6, it is just magical. I'd forgotten about that.
isn't that nice?
Oh man, I tell you, it's just like you just open the window and put your
Air conditioning
elbow out
on.
the window there,
Yep.
just cruising around. It's
Put
nice.
your cap on.
Yeah,
Throw the American flag out there.
that's what you did. Exactly. Yeah.
I know it.
You
All
know how
right.
I roll, Jeff.
I know how you roll. Man, that's the way I roll too, man. All right. So thank you everyone for hanging with us. We do appreciate that. And again, congrats, Tim W. I was just telling people earlier on the show that I'm a slacker when it comes to Slack, and it's been a couple months since I've checked in there, and there's a lot of things going on. So
Well,
I just wanted to-
Ken in the chat room, Facebook chat room, is in the same position as Tim right now, so they both have.
Good.
Yep.
Congrats, Ken.
Couple, Ken's instrument check ride is in 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Oh, okay. I just
Very
seen
nice. Very
Well,
nice.
good
Tim
luck,
says,
man.
so tired of Foggles.
I'll bet you are. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you're going to do fine. You'll pass with flying colors, and please send us some feedback and let us know.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you, after this, it's all downhill. It's easy, so you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and stop the broadcast because it's getting late over here on the East Coast. And wishing you, as I said on the show, clear skies and limited visibility and tailwinds. And we'll see you next week. I think tentatively right now, we haven't told Rick yet, but we're going to try to.
We're going to tell him right now.
On Friday. Yeah.
Okay.
Friday afternoon.
Let
and
me see.
see
No,
how it
Friday
works.
morning-ish.
Friday morning-ish. Well, that's right. Earlier on Friday. I think you said you were still on call or something.
Yeah. I'm on call all through the 5th. So,
Okay.
and actually Friday works perfectly because I don't start my reserve period till 2 p.m. So
Sweet.
Yeah, I
All
can
right.
probably be done by then, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, if you got the day off, or even if you don't, look for us next Friday around 10:30 Eastern Daylight Time.
Beautiful.
In the morning. All right. With that, sayonara.
Good night.
Adios.